See me all right? Yes? Do I sound okay? Yes? Okay, all right. Um, yes? Hmm. Is the internet connection okay? I do not see any response from anyone. Uh, okay, all right, let's get started. Okay, well, at the end of last year, I had the idea of making videos about the Princelings. I sensed that something was coming. On the day I released Princeling Part 2, which was I released it on last Thursday, it was a video about General Liu Yuan. And on the same day, we heard the shocking news that a group of princelings led by General Liu had signed a petition to openly oppose Xi Jinping. The person who disclosed this was Professor Yuan Hongbin, a former friend and a drinking buddy of Xi Jinping. Um, and this piece of news caused a wide debate among the China observers based outside China. Some doubted the princelings would resort to such a dangerous act, while others argue that the princelings have nothing to lose. So today we'll discuss how likely are the princelings organizing a coup to take Xi Jinping down. So we will first talk about what do the princelings want, and then we'll talk about how Professor Yuan obtained his information. And then I'll share with you insights from other experts on their views of this piece of information. And then last but not least, I'm going to talk about, is a coup likely and will it succeed? Excuse me. I'm still recovering from my episode of cold. And also, by the way, I hope wherever you are staying warm because it's very cold here. It's snowing outside. So I hope you are nice and warm and toasty. Okay, so first thing first, let's talk about what does the princelings want. And let me share with you um, this picture taken from a Taiwanese newspaper called the Liberty Times. So in a front page article in Taiwan's Liberty Times on January the 3rd, Chinese dissident and law professor Yuan Hongbin revealed that Xi Jinping is challenged by a princeling group, spearheaded by General Liu Yuan, son of Liu Shaoqi. The group has reached a consensus and wrote a petition to members of the Chinese Communist Party. And the content of the petition is divided into three major points. So this is from Professor Yuan, but he was essentially summarizing the points that the princelings had or what they want. Let me share with you a picture of this. This is Professor Yuan, and this is Liu Yuan, General Liu Yuan, the man at the center of this effort. So let's talk about first thing. First of all, the group accused Xi Jinping of completely abandoning excuse me, completely abandoning and betraying Deng Xiaoping's reform and opening up policy and regressing China back to the Cultural Revolution era. And most seriously, they accused Xi Jinping of promoting a wartime mechanism in preparation for a war in the Taiwan Strait, causing great miseries to the Chinese people. Secondly, Xi's personal dictatorship has led to an irreversible and rapid deterioration of the economy, public discontent, official unrest, and a full-blown social crisis, causing the country on the verge of collapse. Externally, Xi Jinping has engaged in a wolf warrior diplomacy, which has reduced China to become a public enemy in the global arena, particularly an enemy of developed nations. And the last point, This one I'm going to read you. The first 2 points I paraphrased them for you, but the last one I'm going to read you directly from the article. So this is what's said in the article. It says, third, in view of the above facts, in order to stop Xi Jinping's retrograde actions that lead China to unprecedented disasters, we will take action and appeal to the 90 million CCP members to carry out a history-making democratic political reform, deprive Xi Jinping of the power to control China's destiny, and by using democratic socialism, transform our party into a socialist democratic party, and lead China to a democratic socialist parliamentary political system. Okay, listen to that. A democratic socialist parliamentary political system. At the same time, reject the policy of threatening Taiwan by force and set cross-strait relations on a virtuous path of coexistence and co-prosperity, and using this as an opportunity to comprehensively improve relations with developed countries such as the United States, Japan, the EU, the United Kingdom, and Australia, to regain the strategic window of opportunity for China's economic development. Okay, so Professor Yuan also revealed that the co-signers of the petition included Liu Yuan, of course, the man on this screen, who is the son of Liu Shaoqi, and also the son of Deng Xiaoping, Deng Pufang, the son of Hu Yaobang, Hu Deping, and the son of Chen Yun, Chen Yuan. Now, children of other founding members of the PRC include the children of General Luo Ruiqing. Children of other founding members of the PRC include General Luo Ruiqing, Marshal Ye Jianying, Marshal He Long, Marshal Nie Rongzhen, Xu Xiangqian, and a few others. Now, interestingly, the siblings of the man who Xi Jinping locked up in prison for staging a coup against him 11 years ago, Bo Xilai, also signed the petition. I mean, Bo Xilai didn't sign the petition, but his siblings did. And also a group of military generals and leaders whom Xi Jinping considered his inner circles also have signed the petition. And Professor Yuan said, as evidenced by Xi's purges of the rocket force and the defense minister Li Shangfu. So Professor Yuan suggested that the rocket force and the former defense minister got into trouble because of their participation in this joint petition organized by General Liu Yuan. So I told you what the Princelings want, or what their statement was. Now, let's talk about how Professor Yuan obtained this information. He accepted an interview a few days ago and discussed how he obtained the information. So let's first hear what he said, right? So let's hear firsthand what the man who disclosed this information said in an interview. So let me play you this clip of video.
In this information age,
hold on, let me start from the very beginning. So I translated I translated the subtitles and use AI for voiceover, so you can hear this. Let me play this. I'll put on my earphones. Sorry.
The Xi Jinping regime has imposed unprecedented, extremely harsh, high-tech surveillance on all of society. In this information age, he completely blocked Chinese people's access to information. Luckily, Xi's dictatorship hasn't reached the rest of the world, and he can't completely close the doors to China. Every year, a large number of Chinese go abroad for business, school, travel, and so on. Some conscientious individuals within the CCP brought the information outside China in this way. They, of course, took a big risk. This is how the info has left China. I obtained the info at the end of October. We went through a series of verification using our method. At the end of November, we concluded that a group of princelings had agreed to oppose Xi Jinping's dictatorship. Why do Liu Yuan and other princelings dare openly disclose their determination to the international community now? The group of princelings, spearheaded by Liu Yuan, had a similar experience during the Cultural Revolution, when their parents were severely persecuted and punished by Mao. Among them, Liu Shaoqi, Pei Long, and Peng Dehuai were persecuted to death. So this group of princelings concluded that if Xi Jinping dared to launch political persecution to punish, then this time Xi would ignite the fear of anger fuming in the party, and he would be playing with fire. Based on this assessment, they let the international community know they've formed a consensus in opposing Xi's dictatorship, and they are ready to put the consensus into action.
Okay, so now you heard firsthand how he explained firsthand how he obtained information and his assessment of the information. So now let me tell you about experts' feedback. First, let's talk about those who challenged the claim. Okay, they gave the following 4 reasons why they don't believe that such an act is possible. First reason is it's highly dangerous and almost impossible for the princelings to be organizing such an effort, like an open petition. It's just too risky for them to do so because the CCP's digital surveillance system would have caught it, and there's no way Xi Jinping would have allowed them to openly, carry out such an outrageous act, right under his nose, and these princelings would lose everything. And the second reason is the list of co-signers of the petition include almost all the princeling heavyweights. And it's very difficult for them to reach consensus and agree on something. This is because some of them don't get along with each other due to historical reasons and the old grudges held by their fathers or their parents. For example, the son of Hu Yaobang doesn't get along with the son of Chen Yun because Chen was the person responsible for disposing Hu, right? So one father disposed another, so their children don't necessarily see eye to eye. I will later explain the different types of princelings and their political views later. But let me continue telling you the opinions that do not believe, that challenge this claim. So the third reason is that the claim that some of the active duty military officers and civilian officials belonging to Xi's inner circle also co-signed the petition is also impossible to believe, because these people would be committing a political suicidal act. They're asking for trouble. So it's highly unlikely. And the fourth reason is that the Rocket Force and Li Shangfu drama started in July. If they were involved, then that means the petition would have been in existence in July or even before July. Some experts believe that there's no way Xi Jinping would allow General Liu Yuan and other princelings to gather together, for the concert to commemorate his father's 125th birthday, months after they signed this petition, right? It's just impossible. By the way, I talked about General Liu Yuan and then the Princelings, the concert in my scripted video released last Thursday. So I included. I hope I asked Chris to include the link in the description. So hopefully he has got time to do it. If not, if the links are not there, I will copy paste them after this live stream. So those are the 4 reasons people have doubts about this claim. Now, there are also people who believe that we cannot discredit this claim so easily, and they believe that it's highly possible. And I pick the chief editor of Chinese Epoch Times, Ms. Guo Jun, who is a princeling herself. And she believes that the information Professor Yuan disclosed cannot be easily discredited. And she gave her reasons. And let me play the next clip of video.
6 months, we were
Hold on a second.
In fact, there have been signs. In the past 6 months, we were frequently contacted by individuals who claimed to be reps of 2nd or 3rd generation princelings. They said they were ready to turn against Xi. Not just one, but a couple of sources have said the same thing. They said they were making things happen, including some of the things we saw in past years. Of course, they are very secretive and can't reveal their names or the names of the people they represent. As a media, we can't report this type of info. But collectively speaking, it is fairly credible. I remember a Red Princeling club called the Children of Yanhe used to hold an annual meeting to endorse Xi Jinping after 2012. But it stopped in the past 5 years, and the people disappeared. Last December, they went to Liu Yuan's gathering to commemorate his father. Liu also published an article to support reforms and opening up. The group joining him is indirect evidence that the princelings are supportive of Liu Yuan now.
Okay, so that was his first. That was her first reason. By the way, I want to mention something. One of my fans sent me an email recently and cautioned me of quoting Epoch Times from time to time, and he had read the expose pieces by the New York Times and NBC, I believe, on Epoch Times, and this fan held quite some negative views of Epoch Times. So I mean, out of his care for my channel and my reputation, so he cautioned me of quoting Epoch Times. Now, my view is that in order to do my job, I need to quote all sorts of sources from all media outlets, including CCTV, People's Daily, the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, and the Epoch Times. I won't practice any censorship against any media. I think that's just very narrow-minded. By the way, what I heard is the New York Times has been studying the Epoch Times in its coverage of CCP politics and is learning from them. So I must say that when it comes to the Chinese politics, there's no media outlet that can be compared to the Chinese edition of the Epoch Times. They have been doing this for 2 decades, and they're the foremost forces that's outspoken against the CCP. So, for your information, which media outlet the CCP leaders care the most of all the medias published outside China? Which one they care the most? It's the Epoch Times. They don't worry about the New York Times or the Washington Post or Bloomberg, because they think they have fairly good control, or they have certain amount of influence over these Western media. But there's one media they absolutely have no control over. That is the Epoch Times. So it was said that when this Politburo have meetings, the newspaper that's on their desk is the New York edition of the Chinese Epoch Times, because the CCP leaders read and care about media that they have no control or influence of. So I just want to give you my view. So think about it, right? Why would the New York Times and NBC attack a media that's most outspoken against the CCP. Anyways, so Ms. Guo said that in her clip that you just watched, that she was, fed with information from other princelings, but she can't really release them in as a media outlet. And this is true because there are all sorts of anti-Xi Jinping forces, or even Xi Jinping's own faction, reaching out to various media outlets in language or in foreign languages, based outside China, trying to have them spread whatever narratives that they want, those Chinese want them to spread. So we've seen, all sorts of Western media like Nikkei Asia, right? They were all being fed with, even Politico, was fed with the piece of information on the death of Qin Gang. So all Western medias are relying on sources, various Chinese sources, to report their information. But I would say, interestingly, the one media that has been most careful not to pick a side, not to be involved in CCP politics, is the Epoch Times, because they very rarely, report on information they're being fed. So if you really follow all the media that cover Chinese politics, you'll find out that the Epoch Times Chinese edition is the most careful in not to repeating these narratives that various factions want you to repeat after them. But anyways, that's just a little my view on the media landscape. But here in the next piece, she gave her perspective on the princelings' motivation to oppose Xi Jinping, and I found it very informative. So here's the next piece. Is this the next one? Here we go.
CCP's name. Professor Yuan mentioned changing the CCP's name to a Socialist Democratic Party. This is not the first time we heard it. In 2010, some people within the CCP raised the issue, and it was said to be endorsed by someone high up. Zheng Qinhong was behind it and sent people overseas to collect feedback. At the time, the condition for changing the party's name was that all the crimes committed by the Communist Party would be pardoned and forgiven, including the astronomical amount of wealth the princelings have amassed. It caused an intense debate outside China. This is basically the Eastern European model. After the communist regimes collapsed in Eastern Europe, the communist parties all changed their names to Socialist Democratic Party, and some even won elections and became the ruling party. Once becoming a Socialist Democratic Party, they were no longer the original Communist Party. But can China follow this same path? I highly doubt it, because the CCP has got too much blood on its hands. The oppression against the people by lower-ranking officials is atrocious. Once the CCP is overthrown, it's hard to say if people will spare them. The princelings actually fear this. They fear people would seek revenge against them. However, Xi's rule of terror made them fear that their wealth and safety are at risk. The consequences of overthrowing the regime, therefore, doesn't look as dreadful, because CCP's internal struggles are forever most vicious.
Okay, it's a lot of good points that she raised, but she brought up a very good point. That is, the CCP leadership has been contemplating a name change as a tactic to save the regime. In fact, I heard it from a number of other Chinese scholars, and they've been contemplating this for the past few decades. It's, the name change, from their perspective, to change the name, to redefine the Communist Party, is a survival tactic. So the outside world shouldn't be fooled by the princelings' pledge to transform the CCP into a socialist democratic party. It may be just a name change without a real political reform. I say this because the majority of the princelings don't want to bring or aren't ready in their mind to bring fundamental changes to China. There are 4 types of princelings. The first type is those who completely reject Mao and the communist ideology. And these are the people who are sincere in bringing real political reforms and changes to China. People in this group, or the princelings in this group, are Hu Yaobang's sons, Hu Deping and his brother Hu Dehua, and also the daughter of Marshal Luo Ruiqing, Luo Diandian, who joined the Tiananmen Square pro-democracy movement in 1989, is also in this group. Now, the second group has some optimistic tendencies. And the biggest representative of this group is General Liu Yuan. Now, this group is serious about exploring the various options for the country's future. And they do want to bring some changes, and they're sincere about that. But there are, but they may not be ready to accept fundamental changes. And Xi Jinping's political crisis presents an opportunity to them. The third group doesn't want to give up the CCP's rule, and they want to return China back to the Deng Xiaoping's time, in which power was shared among a group of party elders. And the goal for this group is to protect their family's wealth and prestige. And those princelings in this group are the son of Deng Xiaoping and the son of Chen Yun, for example. They oppose Xi Jinping because she has deprived them of the opportunity to share power. And they want to restore the oligarchic dictatorship practiced under Deng Xiaoping and Jiang Zemin. That is, it's a system in which the highest power is shared by the powerful CCP families. Now, the fourth group is those who are on the far left, who are supportive of Xi Jinping's return to the Maoist era. And this group includes the descendants of the former premier Li Peng and the children or the daughter of Hu Qiaomu. So this is the princeling. This is the only princeling group that's supportive of Xi Jinping. So if you look at the 4 groups, except the first group, all the other 3 groups are more than likely. I mean, the last one is not even supportive of a democratic socialist banner, but the other groups are more than likely only using the banner of the socialist democratic name to win the hearts of the Chinese people to oppose Xi. And it's only a strategic move for them. So it's hard to say how many of them are really supportive of a real democratic China. So it's very obvious that the princelings are sending the signal to the international community to obtain support, right? They mentioned no war in the Taiwan Strait, and they mentioned a coexistence with Taiwan. So I think the princeling is trying to obtain support in the international community in their war with Xi Jinping. So now let's talk about how likely would the princelings. So let's answer the ultimate question. So are they really organizing a real coup against Xi Jinping, or are they only doing this for publicity purpose? I think the princelings are, without doubt, organizing amongst themselves to stop Xi Jinping from repeating Mao's Cultural Revolution, because their families all suffered in the Cultural Revolution. All the opinions expressed in the news article by Professor Yuan are what they believe in, and they do reflect the consensus they've reached verbally or in spirit. Excuse me. But an open petition is unlikely. The idea of a petition is crafted for us, people outside the outside world, to believe that there is such a petition. So I don't think the petition exists. Also, I think the list of the princeling names may be overstated. Not every princeling is willing to risk their future or the future of their children to enforce positive changes in China. In other words, the Princelings are spreading the news about the petition to test the response from the international community, as well as the response from Xi Jinping. With that said, I do believe that something to the effect of a coup has happened or is being organized as we speak. I came to this conclusion a few weeks ago, even before this whole drama took place. A few weeks ago, when I released the blog, The Enigma of Qinggang. So for those of you who have signed up for my newsletter, probably have already read this. I decided to write blogs instead of making videos because I have access, or I have so much information that it would take me forever to make videos based on the information I have. So I just decided to publish articles through my newsletter. So please sign up to my newsletter if you want to read them. So in that article, I have basically came to the conclusion that if you look at, okay, let's put it this way. If you look at all the major events in China last year, the downfall of the rocket force, the downfall of the two ministers, the death of Li Keqiang, and the presumed death of Qinggang, they could not have been isolated cases. And there's only one common denominator, that is a coup attempt. There's only one common denominator, right? If you connect them all. So the death of Li Keqiang and the presumed death of Qinggang cannot be explained by espionage alone. So in that article, I compared these latest events to the Linbiao incident in 1971, which was a failed coup attempt by Ling's son, a formidable princeling at the time. So without a doubt, Xi Jinping is sitting on a crater of a volcano that's ready to erupt. A black swan event is very likely for 2024 for the following two reasons, right? So if we want to understand the significance of this piece, so whether or not a real petition is underway is not important. What's important is what this piece by Professor Yuan in Liberty Times, what's important is it highlights two issues, and these two issues are the determining factors for 2024's Black Swan events. One is the Princelings cannot back down now. This issue is already out in the open. Once this piece was published, the Princelings have to stick to with their declared consensus and carry it out if they still want to have any political credibility in the future. So there's no turning back now, and they must fight Xi Jinping to the end. And the second important factor is that it will cause deeper internal divide. All CCP officials at all levels observing this fight must pick a side. It's a political gamble, and the stake is very high. If they choose to stick with Xi Jinping, well, what if the Princelings win? And if that happens, they will go down with Xi Jinping. And if they choose to side with the Princelings now, and Xi Jinping finds out, they will lose everything now. But the officials must pick a side, and there's no middle ground. And this will further divide the CCP organization and cause greater chaos, internal chaos. And I think the regime may be paralyzed from within because of this. So last but not least, will the Princelings be successful in their effort to organize this fight, open fight with Xi Jinping? Not if they only want to change the name of the party without a real political reform. As long as Xi Jinping still functions in his capacity, or functions normally in his capacity as the party leader, the chances for the Princelings to succeed is very small. This is because, number one, Xi Jinping still still has control of the party apparatus, right? And the princelings, even though they are influential, they don't have real power. They don't hold any functional responsibilities. So as long as Xi Jinping is not sick or nothing happens to him, it's very difficult for the princelings to carry out this effort without announcing real political support, because they will not win the heart of the Chinese people if they still want the regime to continue. So the only way they can be successful, the only way the princelings can be successful is one, that something happens to Xi Jinping, like he's sick or he's ill, or if the princelings are serious about bringing real political changes to China by abandoning the communist ideology. So that's all I want to say, and it's a lot of information, and I hope this is helpful. Let's see if people have questions for me. By the way, I cannot see myself because my new camera completely blocks the view, so I don't even know if I appear okay on the screen for you. All right, let's see. Let me go through the super chat questions first. Oh, I have a super sticker from She Hate Me 546. All right. Okay. Well, thank you for the donation. All right. Let's see. Oh, sorry. From LL. Love your talks. Any chance she manufactured these story as fake news to identify, weed out non-loyal princelings? I thought about it. I don't think so, because such a story would only embolden or encourage his opponents, which are too numerous for him to handle right now. So why would he fabricate this fake news to give power to his opponents? It does not win him anything. He already know, if he wants to find out who are really opposing him, his digital surveillance, he actually relied on his spy agencies to obtain the information, his intelligence agencies to obtain information on. Actually, people say the state security ministry is watching his military, is watching the PLA, and that's making the PLA generals very upset, right? No military people want to be managed by some spies. So so he does not need to create a fake news like this to find out who is opposing him or who are opposing him. But good question. All right, let's see. Do you think if you have questions, please put my name in the front so I know it's addressed to me. So here's a question from Angel. Do you feel like there is any merit to what Peter Zeihan says about China? I don't follow him. So I don't really know what his views are about China. I must say that I think the best mind that that understand the CCP politics are still Chinese. I'm saying with full respect to Western scholars and experts, but that's just what I have found. Unless they have a language advantage, unless they're fluent, there's some exceptions. There's some Western scholars who grew up in China, like there's Shi Mingfu. There's a Japanese journalist who was born and raised in China, and he's Japanese. He was born to Japanese father. His native language is Chinese, and so he has, his view, his perception into CCP politics is phenomenal, because of his native experience and language advantage. All right, so and also a conspiracy theorist. Yeah, I like to study the subject as a subject. I do not like I do not like to use too many conspiracy theory. If I must present a conspiracy theory to you, I want to give you the background, the historical view, or why I believe they're conspiring against someone else. Because I think there's so many conspiracy theories in the world right now, and sometimes it only lessen the credibility of the analysis. So that's just my view. Okay, Carolyn Fitzgerald, is there a princeling that is popular with the public, or is this situation just centered on the halls of power? Um, if if there's one princeling that can be popular, well, first of all, princelings are not popular amongst common Chinese because they're the privileged class, right? Why would average Chinese like them? Because their families have taken advantage. They're so privileged that I don't think ordinary Chinese necessarily like a princeling. But General Liu Yuan, the reason why he is such a formidable force that makes Xi Jinping fearful of him is because of his family tragedy. His father was famously tortured to death and killed by Mao, so he could gain the sympathy of those true reformists who want to overthrow the regime because of his family's tragedy. So he could, and then he also, because he could also gain the support of those on the left, because his father was, the second chairman of China, right? You say Chairman Mao is. His father was the second chairman of China, and there was no president of China at the time. It was only the chairman of China. So the high profile of his family gave him support from the leftist, and the tragic ending of his father also gained him the sympathy from the right. So that's why he could gain the support from both sides, and that made him tremendously dangerous from Xi Jinping's perspective. And that's why he is spearheading this effort, because he is probably the person who can build consensus amongst the difficult princeling groups, right? Okay. Somebody said, I think Bo Xilai will take over. Well, so far he's still in the prison. I hope not, because that man is worse. That man is dangerous. Yeah. Okay, from Jairo Herrera, is it too late for the CCP to redeem itself by abandoning the one-party rule and become more like the JCP, embrace a multi-party system in Japan? I don't think so. I think the chances for CCP to reform itself and is over, because it has committed too many crimes. Particularly the last 3 years, the pandemic has killed any credibility that the CCP still had with its people and in the world. So I don't think they'll be given another chance to redefine themselves. It's over. Robin C. Lay, not all foreigners who knows the language are credible, as some are corrupt by the CCP and choose to be their shills and agents. Correct. That's a good observation. You're right. NTN, what do you think about Zhongzhi Enterprise Group, Chinese shadow bank, filed for bankruptcy? They do not look good. I plan to talk about that next week. Yeah, I read somewhere that their their cash on hand is only in the millions of dollars. I mean, millions of yuan. I mean, for such a gigantic financial institution to have, the liquidity of only a few million yuan in their hands is unthinkable. Although I have not, verified that and look further into that, but I want to talk about it next week. So stay tuned. Please subscribe. So let's see. Michelle Barnhill, thank you for your live stream. Thank you, Michelle. All right, let me see. Albert Franklin Lay, how much control does the international have in China? Not very much. Foreigners in China don't have much control in China. Alex Dahl, how is the Taiwan election reported in the PRC? Do ordinary Chinese know that Taiwan is governed democratically? The Chinese do know. I think it's hard. It's very difficult for the CCP to cover the Taiwan elections. I mean, they held a couple of debates, right? The three candidates openly debated each other. I mean, that whole idea, the imagery of having three candidates openly debate, to win votes, that whole concept, that image is dangerous for the CCP. So the CCP doesn't talk about the Taiwan election now, because what is it going to talk about? Oh, they held a debate and they openly, I mean, it's the CCP does not want the Chinese people to think that that's being done in Taiwan. Lei is very disappointed. Am I? Am I disappointed? I don't think so. Robin C, I hope you recover soon and keep up your excellent work. Oh, I hope so too. All right. Fav, F-A-V, Lei, if the coup succeeds, would it revive China's economy? I don't think so. Unless the coup really adopts a complete political reform, if they abandon the Communist Party and goes for a complete political reform to, like what they said, establish a parliamentary, political system, then it's possible. But there will be a period of time where I think Chinese society will go through a period of chaos. I think they will have probably a year or two transition. It may take some time. So I don't think it will fix the Chinese economy right away. So, yeah. All right. Will China remain one cohesive country if Xi is expelled by the Princelings? I think it will. I think the chances for China to break up into several states is very small because, one, the Princelings won't allow it to happen. Number two, the Chinese people won't like that idea. I think they're either they've been brainwashed by the CCP to believe that the whole country needs to stay together as one nation. I think they're very adamant about that. And also the third reason is the Chinese culture is this cohesive agent that will glue everyone together, that will eventually bring everyone together. Not politics, but Chinese culture and the language will bring people together. All right, let's see. Mark Pollard. Lei, do you think the Princelings will ultimately succeed? Consider Xi seems to be the last prophesized dictator. It seems they may fail to hold things together if they succeed in removing him. Like I said, I don't think the Princelings will succeed as long as they still want to hold on to the Communist Party. For the reason you stated here, because Xi Jinping still holds power indefinitely. So I think the ultimate competition between Xi Jinping and everyone who opposes him will be based on one factor and one factor only: which side will win the hearts of Chinese people. If neither side wins the support of the Chinese people, then they will not win. That means the opposition will not win. That means Xi Jinping will continue to rule because they're not strong enough to overthrow him. The only person or the only party or the only group that will be successful in overthrowing the CCP will be the one, win the heart of the Chinese people, must have the support from the Chinese people. So that's the condition. If the princelings are smart enough, they will figure this one out. But then they must be very courageous in resolving their family's history with the CCP, because the CCP, like Ms. Guo pointed out, they fear because the CCP has committed so many crimes, and their fathers and grandfathers are part of that. Their families are responsible for all the crimes the CCP has committed. So if they're not strong enough to say, to cut the ties with the past and to be courageous enough to accept the responsibilities, then they're not going to win the hearts of the Chinese people. Okay, toilet finger. Thank you for your hard work. Well, thank you, Vanket. Well, thank you, Vanket, for your support. LL, will you do a Taiwan election talk specific about where you think China manipulation influence is happening? Yes, I will. Definitely, I will. It's coming up. It's in a week, the 13th. So I will do that. Let's see. Good dot. Question: photos of 125th birth of Li. About a dozen elderly on stage, half empty small hall, half security agents. Even Mao didn't purge factions so much. Dissidents don't have people factions in CCP? You mean the 125th birthday of Liu Shaoqi, a half dozen elderly on stage? Yes, they are the princelings. Half empty small hall, half security agents. Even Mao didn't purge factions so much. Oh, Mao purged factions a lot. We just forgot about the history. If you look at during Cultural Revolution, no one was safe. The only one person who was safe was Mao himself. Everyone was at the risk of being purged. Even his premier, Zhou Enlai, died of cancer because Mao forbade him to receive treatment. Mao didn't allow him to get surgeries. So everyone under Mao was purged, was persecuted. So you can't say it was not as it was what we see in China today is worse than Mao's time. No, it's not. All right, let's see. That's about it. Akash Mia 84. Have you read Bloomberg's story? Rockets are filled with water instead of fuel. Yes, I have read that. And also the fire well, the cover cannot be open. It's like the rusted or whatever, and the fuel was water. Yes, I and the source the sources were the U.S. intelligence report. It didn't came from China. The sources came from the U.S. intelligence. I think that's why Xi Jinping is doing major house cleaning, and it's very believable. The extent of corruption within the PLA is unbelievable. Yes. All right. I'll take one last question, and it's Harry Honkanen. Lei. Are there still emperor bloodlines working for some kind comeback? Well, the last emperor, I think there's the last emperor of Qing dynasty. I don't think China is ready to go back to the imperial system, because the Qing, if you look at history, I would say this: the last emperor, the empress, dowager, ceded power to the Republic of China, right, which is the government in Taiwan. So in terms of bloodlines, the Qing dynasty has already ceded power. They're already gone. So the legitimate heir in terms of this lineage of power, throughout Chinese civilization is the ROC, the Republic of China. So China, before the CCP came over, China was a republic, right? And its government still exists. It's in Taiwan. It never disappeared. It's just that the CCP, couldn't completely defeat them and drove them to Taiwan, to the island. So that's why the CCP is so fearful of the Taiwanese government. It wants to get rid of them. That's why it always focus on reunification. So in terms of the bloodlines, I don't think Chinese people are ready to embrace the Qing emperors to come back, but I think they're more open to welcome the Republic of China to return to China because they were once the government there. All right, that's all for today. It's Sunday. I'll take a question from Constant Drowsiness. Your name caught my interest. Constant Drowsiness. How much of the PRC's ideology is now Marxist versus Chinese ethno-nationalist or something else? The PRC's ideology is still very Marxist, with a Chinese twist. But I don't think it's a Chinese nationalist. I mean, there are many versions of nationalism in the world, but none. I mean, what the ideology that the CCP holds is very Marxist, right? Like a common prosperity. There's no private ownership. Everything belongs to the state. The government decides how much what jobs you do and how much money you make. It makes housing, provides housing for everyone. There's no private ownership, right? There's no private property, and therefore there's no market economy. There's just no market. Everything's state controlled. That's Marxist. That's not nationalism. Has nothing to do with nationalism at all. So I think the ideology is is still Marxist. All right. All right. Thank you very much for joining me. Oh, and I'll see you next week or this week. Okay, bye-bye.